Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to Keep What You Earn. And today I just wanted to hop on for a quick episode to share a couple of things with you that have been on my mind lately around what we do as CFOs and my biggest fear, honestly, my biggest fear as a CFO. I recently had a talk with my employees around just some of the inherent sort of fears I have and why the way I operate comes from a lot of those fears. And, one of my biggest fears is not delivering enough value to my clients, to our clients, in such a way where we are then compared to, I would say, a run of the mill accountant. Now, this can be really tricky because we work really hard to differentiate a CFO from an accountant. And we completely understand that these two things are very hard to distinguish for most people. And although I have this platform and others to help clarify that, I think generally it's just not well understood. And this actually just came to me. It kind of downloaded into my brain recently, and I actually put it up on our website. I thought that it was such a good idea to say it this way, is that Keep What You Earn and myself, we are strategists who happen to be accountants, not accountants who have strategy on their menu. And what you'll find is that when you see accountants, when you see CPA firms, traditional CPA firms who are used to doing bookkeeping, taxes, and the like, and what I call the stay out of trouble work, you'll see that they start offering strategy because they know it's profitable. They know that it's more sticky. They know that they're going to have to offer strategy to keep up with the times. And they add strategy to the menu. It's like adding a steak to the menu at a fast food restaurant. It's like you can add that to the menu because people are asking for it, but it doesn't mean you know how to cook it well. It doesn't mean that you're gonna have the same quality and people are gonna enjoy it as much. By simply putting it on your menu doesn't mean it's good. And I think that it's gonna be really hard to distinguish the quality of services. And, my biggest fear is that when you hear Keep What You Earn, or when you hear fractional CFO, or you hear my name, you're going to associate that or compare that to your bookkeeper, your tax preparer, your, compliance driven accountant, and therefore compare our price, our services, what we do to that service and look at them as sort of the same thing. Let me use this analogy. You can compare Spirit Airlines to, say, a Delta, and you can compare those things. They both offer the same service, more or less, in a different package, which is how I would kind of compare this, versus comparing Delta Airlines to Greyhound Bus. It's different. They're both ways to get from A to B, but it's a very different approach. It's a very different mindset. It's a very different set of requirements to engage these different things, and they're different prices for a reason. So you have to make sure that if you're looking at a fractional CFO or you're looking at an accountant, you're comparing similar services and not different companies altogether, different offerings altogether. And my biggest fear is just being seen as a CPA purely in the way that the general public understands what a CPA does, which is to do tax returns or to do a lot of high volume, low touch work that's compliance driven. Shifting that mentality and shifting that business model has been part of my mission from day one. It's why I left the firms. Like, if I wanted to do taxes, if I wanted to do bookkeeping as a service, as the core service, I would have just stayed working at a firm. But at the end of the day, what I wanted to do was make a deeper impact. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to do more for less people. I wanted to go and be that, small first class cabin as opposed to the giant airline or bus. I wanted to serve with top notch service and show that we could deliver that and still build a 7+ figure business doing just that without having to go the volume game. And I think that accountants going the volume game are going to end up getting eaten up by AI one way or another, because if you're doing something at scale, at volume, it means that you're just scratching the surface of quality or of service. Like, you're doing one little thing for all these different people. And that one little thing could get outsourced. But if you're doing 18 different things for that customer, yes, maybe 4 or 5 of those things are going to get outsourced or offshored or done with AI, but you still have another 12, 13, 14 to go. And that's what we're kind of grounding ourselves in. And when it comes to not delivering enough value to have people see us that way, that's probably my biggest fear, but it's probably the thing that presents itself the most in the first 3 or 4 months of working with us. Luckily, I have a few clients who experienced very quick wins with working with us early on in our relationship where just after the kickoff call or just a few weeks later, we were strategizing, came up with an idea for them or planted a seed in their head of an idea of something they could do. And it turned into a multi-thousand-dollar partnership. Hey, Shannon here. And I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying this podcast and enjoying this episode, please leave us a review on your podcast platform, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, any of them, and let us know if you're enjoying the show. One of your biggest takeaways, we would really, really appreciate it. Okay, back to the show. This actually happened. And they credited us with the idea. And I was just kind of like, not stating the obvious, but like stating well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And just exploring the options. And it turns out that they hadn't tried this or that. And they said, that's a good idea. Let's look into this. And funny enough, it's just having those conversations and being in the room with that person long enough to start thinking like them, start thinking strategically, and start putting yourself in the seat of the business owner to say, hey, let's get creative here. Let's find some ideas on how we can solve this problem. And that's really what we want to be seen as doing. And like I said, my biggest fear is that someone will come to us and say, hey, I feel like I'm not getting my value's worth because my financial statements are a little late or, the bookkeeping wasn't done to my liking or whatever. And I just go, these are such small, we're striving, of course, to not have those things happen, but those things are such small impact in the grand scheme of what we're designed to provide. So it's also a function too of the client being willing to share information with us, right? And bring us into the loop. Like it's like going to an event where if you stay in the corner and you stay quiet and you don't meet people and mingle, you may walk away with not much from that event. And I look at it the same way with your relationships with your service providers. If you don't show up and share, get vocal, ask for what you want, and collaborate, of course, it goes both ways. But if you don't show up and attempt to collaborate, then you're not going to get as much as you would if you did. And that's a big part of it too, is I know that money is a touchy subject. I know it's difficult. And so we have to come like that 60, 70, 80% and allow the client to come that 20, 30, 40. And we realize that we have to stretch further across the table to welcome them in. And that's okay. That's a responsibility we know we have. But if they're not willing to make that step forward, it's really challenging. So I think that when it comes to my role as a CFO, that is one of my biggest fears in a way, but it's also in my mind the thing that drives me to make sure that value is clear, make sure that we're moving in that direction. Because, if you don't fear anything, if you think you're golden, if you think you're great, you think that there's nothing that can stop you, I'm like, that's when you have your eye off the ball and you have to have a little bit of something under your ass to motivate you. And for me, it's all about not just the fear of losing clients, which of course, who can shake that, but the fear of more so, less than losing the client, the fear is that they'll be disengaged from us. And not just in the contract term, but disengaged from the standpoint of they don't want to talk to us anymore, or they don't feel like they can share something with us. If there's any sort of trust broken or there's any sort of hesitation, then we haven't done our job. And that's pretty much my biggest fear is that our value won't be appreciated or our trust will be broken. And if that happens, then likely that's not actually a healthy client relationship. But when it comes to your business too, you have to be thinking about like, what are some of my biggest fears of what could happen? What am I doing to make it unreasonable that that would happen? What can I do to make it unreasonable that these fears would come to life and manifest? And if you focus on nothing else as a founder, it's kind of a good place to start. I hope that's helpful. I hope that helps you see a little bit into the inner workings of what we're doing over here. And just honestly getting, transparent with you on, hey, this is something I'm actually really scared of. But hey, without that fear, I wouldn't be working as hard as I do. And I hope you feel the same way. We realize that CFO services may not necessarily be accessible to everybody. And that's why we have packaged our CFO services into a power session for you. With this single purchase session, you'll be able to navigate the financial scorecard with me personally on your business and figure out what constraint you need to unlock next. We're going to give you direction, clarity, and we're going to find ways to increase your profitability, increase your cash flow, and make sure you never run out of money. Okay, if you're interested in booking a power session with me, I only do a couple per month, so make sure you jump on quickly and sign up. Check the link in the show notes for more information. I can't wait to see you in a power session.